Hello and welcome to the Glory Glory podcast. I'm your regular host, Kyle, and joining me today is journalist Jonas Adnan Giæver. Welcome to the show, Jonas.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
It's great to have you on. I think a lot of my Twitter followers will be familiar with you.
Yeah, I'm going to assume that a few of them will, and a few of them will do so daringly, and a few will do so annoyingly. So that's the name of the game.
Okay, I know this is a Man United podcast, but the big topic at the moment is Lionel Messi. Um, is there? Where do you think he'll end up after this? And is there a possibility he could end up at Old Trafford? I'm thinking probably not.
No, I think that Man United probably have other targets in mind, and I think that they landed a player who's um, not close to Messi in terms of quality, but I mean he kind of fulfills the same type of role in Jadon Sancho. But yeah, I mean, if you get the chance to sign a player like Lionel Messi, of course you will try. But I think that that's the same thing that, for example, Paris Saint-Germain have been thinking. I think that's where he'll end up. I think it's pretty much a given now that he'll end up at one of those clubs that have been working the hardest to get him for the past 2 or 3 years, which seemingly are Man City or PSG. And when you see that Pep Guardiola went out today in his press conference and said that they're not going to pursue a potential Messi signing, I think that's clear sailing and a straight path for Mauricio Pochettino and PSG to snap him up. So I think the big question is, how did we end up in this situation, in this predicament? I think that's what Barcelona are thinking more so than anything. And yeah, it seems like we're heading into a future in which Lionel Messi will call Parc des Princes his new home. I can't hear you.
Yeah, I gotta say that's going to be a bit strange for all football fans.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, it is strange. It is an odd thing considering the fact that he's been so synonymous with Barcelona and synonymous with Spanish football. I mean, not only is he leaving Barcelona, but he's leaving La Liga as well, which is obviously a big blow to I suppose their trademark and obviously how they go about attaining sponsorships and broadcasting deals. That was something that was brought up on numerous occasions when this was going on. That this is sort of a loss for Barcelona, yes, but also a loss for La Liga as an entity and a loss for Spanish football. So in one and the same summer, you're going to see two of the biggest icons and profiles of the league in Sergio Ramos and Lionel Messi seemingly leave Spanish football, which, yeah, again, I don't think is a good sign for Spanish football. But then again, it's also a sign of the times, I guess.
Another player that's left the Liga this summer is Rafael Varane. Um, he's won everything there is to win in the game. Do you think he's going to be just as motivated when he moved to Old Trafford?
Yeah, I think he will. And I mean, why would he move if he wasn't motivated to go and prove himself somewhere else? I mean, he's a World Cup winner, a serial Champions League winner. He's won everything there is to win. He's been one of the best, if not the best, central defender for some time. I mean, of course, there's been some players who have challenged that spot from him. I mean, in my estimation, there are a few players that perhaps are a wee bit better than him. But I mean, on his day and when he performs at the peak of his powers, there's no one that equals him. And I do include the likes of Ruben Diaz and Virgil van Dijk when I do assess that. I think that he's absolutely fantastic when he's on his game. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened as often as it did a couple of years ago. A wee bit because of injuries, but also because Real Madrid have been so inconsistent in the way they've performed. I mean, they've been a team that has gone from winning El Clásico against Barcelona to losing at home to the likes of Cadiz. So I think Varane goes to Man United thinking that he has a lot to prove and thinking that he has to go to a league in which he hasn't shown his skills yet. And I think that I also think I mean, it's a 10 years in the making if you look at it, because he was very close to going to Man United way back when, and that didn't materialize. He went to Real Madrid and did everything everything there, and now he's going to Man United, and obviously if he becomes an icon at both places, I mean, what's better than that?
Yeah, we're very, very excited to see him arrive alongside Sancho. We're just hoping to get maybe a central defensive midfielder along with it, and possibly it seems another Liga player in Kieran Trippier. Can see him ended up at Old Trafford before the end of the window.
Um, I mean, he's an Englishman and he's from the Greater Manchester area, so I would assume that his desire is to go back to Man United, go back to England. I mean, he's been very, very good for Atletico Madrid when he has played. I mean, he's been so important to their, if you want to call it a 3-5-2 system that they've played for some time. I mean, he's been so important. I can see it happening, but I think you have to wait a little bit. I think you have to wait until late in the market for it to happen, because I think Atletico Madrid are very determined to get their price. I think they want, I think it's about 25-30 million euros for him, and I think that perhaps Man United view that as too much. But yeah, I think eventually down the window, if United are determined to land him, I also think that it depends on the players going out for United to free up some economical power to get him. So yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if it happens, to be quite honest with you.
Okay, well, United absolutely have to sell this summer, to balance the books. Eric Bailly has been linked with a move back to Villarreal. Could you see that happening in this window?
It depends on Pau Torres. It depends a lot on Pau Torres. I think if he goes, I think it opens up a clear spot for Eric Bailly, because I think you could also say that he could play next to Pau Torres, and that Raul Albiol is getting as old as he is. But then again, he recently signed a new contract with Man United, didn't he? So I cannot necessarily see that they'd be so determined to flog him. But then again, the transfer window, anything can happen. Anything can happen.
What about Saul Niguez or Ruben Neves? They've been heavily linked in recent weeks. Could you see one of them potentially going to United?
Saul was very close to going to Barcelona as a part of a trade with Antoine Griezmann, and I think he's determined to try something new and to perhaps get a fresh start somewhere else. So I would assess him being available or attainable also. And I would guess that maybe Atletico Madrid do the due diligence there and allow him to leave, considering the fact that maybe he's not first choice anymore. Which would be an interesting purchase, even though he has a pretty long contract. I think he actually has a contract that expires in 2027 or something along those lines. I think he has an obscene long contract. And when it comes to Ruben Neves, again, they just switched manager, Wolves, which means that maybe it's time to start fresh and see something new happening. So and I'm a big fan of Ruben Neves. I think he's very, very underrated. I think he's someone who could come in and basically be to use a football manager term, a deep lying playmaker, in terms of being very good on ball, but also being extremely good at positioning himself in midfield and doing sort of the dirty work that you don't see. I think there were some statistics that said that he does a lot of the same things that Fred does in terms of tackling, which is very surprising considering that Fred is, though rash, he's also very dynamic. And I don't think that people have that same kind of view of Ruben Neves. I think that a lot of people think that he's much more poised and calm and doesn't get stuck in as much as, for example, Fred does. But he seemingly does, and that's interesting.
Okay. Someone that I really want to talk about is Anthony Alanga. I know you've been writing about him yourself. He's a terrific talent, and he seems to be. It seems as if there's a chance for him to kind of break through this season, especially with Rashford having gone off for surgery. I was hoping that maybe he could get a start in the Leeds game, but maybe not now after he's picked up a slight injury. So, what is your thoughts on him?
I haven't seen that much of Elanga, but I think that what I have seen of him is very, very interesting in that he offers an X factor. He's able to take on his man. He's able to do a lot of things on his own, which I think is very interesting for a player that is that young. And and play such an important role for a team like Man United. I think you can never have too much of players being brave on ball and trying to create something on their own. And obviously he has a form of X factor in that he's able to finish as well. I think he's very young and he needs consistency, because every young player is going to be inconsistent at some point, but he needs to be given, I suppose, that understanding that he's going to be playing no matter what. I think that's so important for young players, and I don't think Man United can provide that to him now, and rightfully so, because he's not at that level. You know, you see players like Amad Diallo, who perhaps needs the same kind of thing, even though he was brought in for a lot more money, and there's a lot more hoopla made when he signed for Man United. So I think they're a bit in the same position, those two.
Okay, what about Erling Haaland? It seems as if he's not going to move this summer, given the price tag. But I think a release clause comes into effect next summer, and United obviously will probably lose Cavani next summer. Can you see Solskjaer finally getting his man in 2022?
You're asking about something that might happen in a year. There's a lot of things that's going to be happening in 12 months. A lot of things that's going to happen in 12 months. So it's impossible to say. It's absolutely impossible. I mean, for all we know, Solskjaer might get fired during this year. For all we know, I mean, there's a lot of things that might happen. I mean, you could pick up an injury. You know, knock on wood, could being Norwegian and wanting him to perform for a national team. A lot of things can happen in 12 months. So, are Man United going to be in the race for him? Of course they are. Because if you're not in the race for him, then what are you doing? I mean, he's a player who's so good. I mean, he's going to be one of the best players in the world for many years to come. So yeah, United are going to be there, but so Chelsea, Man City, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Inter, Juventus, Bayern Munich. I mean, everyone's going to try and get him. So, but do they have a best placed card on their hand, considering the situation in 2021 with Solskjaer being there and his friend Jadon Sancho being there, and then being in England, which is probably the country that he'd prefer to go to at this stage? Yes, there are definitely a lot of things that would play in United's favor. I think that's my personal opinion. But then again, we're speaking about something that more than likely, unless someone, you know, smacks 200 million euros on the table, is going to be happening in a year's time, and there's so many things that can happen in a year.
Okay, what about Solskjaer himself? You touched on it there. I mean, he's a big season ahead. He probably needs to start winning trophies in this season, otherwise he's going to come under intense pressure. Um, do you think he's the man at Old Trafford? Do you think he'll succeed?
I mean, he needs to win. He needs to win. I think that he's done everything but win. I think that he's placed in a great system. I think he's shown that he's able to persuade big players to go to Man United. I think he's been able to put young players through the system. I think that he's been able to show that he can play an attractive style of football, that he's pragmatic as well as being idealistic in terms of how he pursues the game and sees the game. So he has a lot of things going for him. I'm a big fan of his in terms of how he leads, because I've seen him up close and personal in terms of how he does things from his time at Molde, and have had an understanding of how and what players have thought of him in the past, and when he's been managing in Norway, and it's kind of cool to see that transfer over to the English game. So in a way, yeah, I think that he'd be able to do something interesting in. I think he's been able to do something interesting in England, and I think that he still has a lot of potential and growth. But I think he needs to win. I think that I think in Man United you cannot go as many seasons as he's done now and not win. And now he's been given Jadon Sancho, he's been given Rafael Varane, if he's been given, or if they'll give him Kieran Trippier or someone else to fill in that spot in the midfield. Then he's had 4 big signings, as well as past signings as well with Maguire, for example, and Cavani and so forth and so on. So Bruno Fernandes to put him in there as well. I mean, there's so many players that he's been given, which admittedly have worked, and he's made them work. But then again, they've worked either to semifinals or to a lost final against Villarreal. So they need to get over that hump, and I think that's going to determine a lot of things. Even though I think it's interesting that Man United have given him such a long contract. I mean, it shows to me that at least if you want to call it the higher lords at Old Trafford, at least believe in him.
Yeah, there's no doubt that the club is in a far better place than it was under Mourinho. But now he has to start winning trophies. And looking at the start of the season, um, it's a very favorable fixture list. We don't play any of the so-called big sides until October, really. So this is a chance to get off to a good start, isn't it?
Should be. Then again, there's a lot of. I think that it's a little bit underrated, the fact that you're playing against quote unquote weaker sides. I think it's always what we call banana peels here in Norway. I mean, you can always slip on a banana peel going away to Burnley or playing at home to Brighton, for example. And I think Man United and other teams have shown that the past couple of seasons that there are no easy games in either of the big five leagues, to be quite honest with you. So should they win, and will they be odds on favorites in most of those games? Certainly. But then again, I think it'd also be a huge testament to their growth if they win, say, an away game at Chelsea or at home to Liverpool, for example. I think those games are also obviously important because they mean a lot more to fans. But then again, I think that a run of results is what they need from the start. And yeah, I think that United have had to play catch up way too many times in the post-Ferguson era, because they've always picked up pace towards the ends of the season in season that they've done well. I mean, that one season with Mourinho when they finished second, with Solskjaer last season as well. They picked up pace a little bit too late, and the title was more or less gone.
Okay, one final thing I want to ask you about is the fact that it's obvious that the La Liga giants are in a bit of financial sticky spot. And that's one of the reasons why Messi is gone. Um, is this a real opportunity now for the English sides to dominate in the Champions League?
It's a good question. Yes and no. They seemingly well, in the Champions League they have been there, because obviously there's been two of the three past finals have seen two English sides face each other. I mean, you've seen Chelsea, Man City, and Tottenham against Liverpool. So obviously you've already seen that English teams have had a big say in the Champions League. Then again, they don't seemingly win all the European trophies. I mean, in the Europa League, you obviously had Villarreal who defeated Man United. But yeah, looking at those two teams that you've referred to there in Madrid and Barcelona, I don't think that they'll be the powerhouses of the 2010s and late 2000s that they were. But then again, I think that's it's almost inhuman to be as good as they were at a stage. I mean, it was Star Wars. It was straight out Star Wars when they faced each other. So, but yeah, English teams. I mean, you have to look at it this way as well. Where is the most money at? It's in England. Where are the biggest managerial profiles at? In England. Where do the majority of the biggest stars play? Probably in England as well, with the exception of Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi, and obviously you can add Kylian Mbappe and Neymar there, but then again, they play for a team that might have even more money than the big teams in England. So I think that it definitely, there's every chance that English teams should dominate in the Champions League, and to be quite honest, I think they should be dominating the Champions League, considering the fact that they have the economical powers that they do have. But it's proven difficulty, or it's been it's proven difficult, I should say. That's horrible English, but yeah, for them to do so. I think that they haven't been convincing. They've gone to finals, yes, but it's never been convincing, and that's sort of the thing that I suppose boggles my mind a little bit, because when you've seen teams like Real Madrid and Barcelona stake their claim in the Champions League, usually they've done so very convincingly. They've had sort of a statement victory or something along those lines. But English teams have almost every single time scrapped through or escaped through, or there's been some sort of miraculous thing that's put them through. If you look at, for example, when Barcelona went out to Liverpool in the semi-final. Obviously, there was what you now refer to as the miracle at Anfield when they defeated Barcelona 4-0. You had Lucas Moura, who had the night of his life at Amsterdam Arena, or Johan Cruyff Arena as it's called now, against Ajax, to knock them out of the Champions League to make the final. I mean, it's been, and obviously I'm not going to count last season because there weren't fans in the stadium, and I think that determines a lot. So I'm interested to see what happens now. I think it's interesting to see Man United spend as much money as they've done on Sancho and Varane. Man City spending, or at least having given £100 million to Aston Villa for Jack Grealish. I love Jack Grealish, but £100 million is a lot of money for one player. So yeah, I think that they should. And I mean, if Chelsea sign Lukaku for £110 million or £120 million or whatever they're talking about, I mean, these are sums that Spanish teams at least are not operating with anymore. They're just not able to do so. So I think that the English game, the Premier League, has every chance to be a dominant force for years to come.
Okay, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. I know we've had a few technical difficulties, but
No problem.
okay, have you on again soon, and I'll see you
Sure.
there.
Would love to. It was my pleasure to be on. Apologies for a few of the technical difficulties on my side and a bit of the time restraints, but it's been a pleasure. You've been fantastic. So I'd love to be back on at some stage.